Hello, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be trying to showcase how a Platinum ADC could improve. A Platinum for Draven main, I suppose. So our example is going to be Draven, and we're going to use this guy's VOD. The funny thing is that this guy's playing against a guy who's called Cookie Patreon OP. So we'll see if it really is so OP that he does well or something. Alright, so we're gonna try to apply the same process that we had with jungle, right? So we're gonna go for the pre-game idea. So what kind of a build do we really want to go, right? Draven's pretty versatile, so we're gonna still just stick to lethal tempo because that's just good. I mean, we could also go Halo Blades or something, but we're gonna say lethal tempo. And we're gonna have a simple plan with that. Alright, so do we need to think anything about builds? Okay, so we have two real ways that I've seen people build right now. One is to go like straight up full damage and go, I don't know, like whatever variation of damage items like Essence Reaver Infinity or some dumb thing like that. Or they just go like a bunch of components and then they go Bloodthirster and IE. Or they even just go like some kind of a normal old build or whatever else, right? So we're going to try to adapt a bit with that, and we'll see what build he picks because I can't really pick that for him. And lastly, we're gonna see whether we want to pick this champion here, and it looks fine enough, right? It looks fine enough. This game didn't need to be dodged. We would have to dodge if we were like full AD, or if we played against like, I don't know, Malphite Gwen or something, you know? In that case, we would probably want to dodge. But since all of that is out of the way, we can focus on the early game. So, yeah. A cool trick we have level 1 is that we can walk up to the blue buff and we can stack our access for lane. Otherwise, we can open from lane and try to manipulate the wave. It appears that he's doing neither of those. He just drops a ward, which is the worst situation you can choose. Because first of all, you want to ward against ganks, not ward for your jungler when you play ADC, ideally. Secondly, you want to start in lane if you're not gonna do this little trick with blue buff, so we're kind of wasting our level 1. But okay, no problem. So our plan in the early game is we really want to push at the moment, because if we get pushed in, then we won't be able to play for a while, right? Maybe we can find some miracle all in, but it sounds pretty hard. So what I would say here is, okay, so we're gonna try to push, and we're going to then try to base, and then off the bounce and with like an item or something, maybe HP advantage if possible, then we're gonna try to fight, especially since our jungler is pathing to us. How are we identifying this though? So our jungler is pathing to us, which means that we just want to be in lane at, say, like, I don't know, let's say 3:30. That's like the latest we want to be in lane, right? And at that point, our jungler can actually gank before he does scuttle or something, and that could be pretty decent. He could also lane gank or something, but we're not going to rely on our jungler that much. So that's all we're really going to do in terms of the jungler. But the thing is, there are 3 types of bot lanes, right? Which most of you should know. So either poke, engage, or sustain. And unless we're playing sustain here, then either way it's better for us to push, right? If we play sustain, it's still better for us to push, because the thing is, you think about this in terms of kind of like chess. So they're playing poke, so they want to push. So if we don't let them push, that's automatically probably pretty decent, right? And if they play something like engage, then they want to get pushed in, and they want, or well, they don't mind that much if they push you in, but their champs become pretty useless in this line, right? So it's better for them if you just keep perma pushing and they just find an engage on you, right? That can be better for them. And if they play sustain, then again, it's better for them to be pushing because they can trade, they can use their sustain and chill. But that's mostly because you're playing poke. If they were playing sustain and you're playing all in though, then suddenly it's worse for them, right? Because you want to get pushed in, kind of, because then you have more space. Like either you do that by bouncing the wave on the tower, or you do that by actually letting the enemy push, or whatever. And sustain does not have such a heavy preference for pushing. So yeah, sustain is kind of neutral. So sustain tries to do whatever the other people don't like, while poke tries to push, and all in tries to get some kind of space. And yeah, in the end, that's our goal on each of those lanes. And we identify our lane as more poke and their lane as more poke, so whoever's pushing is going to have a nicer time. That's an easy way to break down bot lane matchups and what you should really be doing with the wave early. Obviously, some stuff will vary based on champions that are picked, but a basic idea is a basic idea. And that should suit us well enough until we reach like diamond or something. So okay, he is pushing, but he's over pushing, right? Because you have to think about, okay, when do I want to base? And the answer can be, I mean, if you crash this and you base, that can be okay, but you won't get an item. And you also didn't get an HP advantage because you didn't really poke. So we're not really achieving our goals, kinda. But now it's actually pretty decent, because if he based right now, right, when the Ashe actually got poke off, then he would have an advantage when he comes back to lane. Like, look at this. So our goal was either to get an item advantage or to get an HP advantage. And when he pushes this, like, look, she gets poke, and if we recognize this, we can just be like, okay, well, we're getting HP advantage, so we can base if we want. And if we base, then what's going to end up happening is that this wave will bounce, and we will end up on our side of the lane, and our jungler is going to be bot side at that point, and he's actually going to be finishing his clear, and we can actually play as we want, pretty much. Because now is the only time when we can really get ganked if we keep staying, right? I mean, like this, right? So junglers will do this a lot, where they do 3 camps and just appear bot lane, or 2 camps and appear bot lane. It does look like this guy's actually invading, so he's even getting rewarded for the ward. But what's really gonna stop? I mean, it's Yi here, but I'm quite sure, I would bet money that this guy would do the same thing even if the enemy jungler was some engage thing or something really broken early or whatever. So yeah, we're not really achieving much by being here, right? And this does happen. We don't recognize it. Whatever, okay. I mean, we should look at the map more, obviously, but okay, whatever. But now we have to recognize that a jungler is there. And you see how this is a really awkward position to be in. So now we can't really push. Can't really do much. We have to like go fight the Yi, but our Ashe is like not having a good time. So at this point, this game is like already really bad compared to what it could be. And we just almost died. He's gonna live, maybe? But he almost died because he almost got hit by Lux Q. Okay, he dies anyway. But you can see how not following our plan really messes us up. Obviously, you can keep pushing in some scenarios, but it's just like, why, right? Like, oftentimes it's bait, both in top lane and in bot lane. So we didn't really follow that plan. And then, okay, so if we don't follow this plan, then after we come back, then we have like a new plan, right? So we're gonna look at that plan and try to determine how we would arrive at that. So right now, what happens is enemy bot lane is low on resources and they're trying to push out. So right now our plan is to hold the wave. Most of you could recognize that. And we want to all in them. That's also pretty easy to recognize, right? Well, let's see what happens. Maybe they actually will end up in a position where they end up crashing. Okay, so he's probably gonna let this crash for whatever reason. I mean, freezing it would have been better, but whatever. Or well, not freezing it, but like just holding it. Like just drag it. You don't have to stand there and tank it, but just drag it. And you will end up denying the enemy at least one wave. Now they're gonna get like the full wave. And the question is, well, what do we do now? Well, the plan is kind of the same as before, right? Because the nature of the lane doesn't really change here. Like, okay, they're still gonna try to like poke us or something. And we're still gonna try to do something else. But the problem is that now it's harder to get an item advantage. So what I want to do right now is to look for a cannon wave, not cannon, is cannon. So next wave is cannon, right? If we can soften up this wave and then we hard trade with enemy bears, that could benefit us a lot, right? So we're not really doing that, right? Because our HP right now doesn't matter. We have 911 HP, and are they going to one-shot us? Well, no, they're not gonna one-shot us. So why can't I just run up and try to trade with the enemy? Obviously, if they're good, they won't trade with me, but they are not good. That's why they're low elo, right? So if they do trade with me, which pretty much everyone until like Master will, most of the time, then what you end up having is you get the enemies to half HP, you get yourself to like 20%, you back off, you base, and you come to lane, and again, same advantageous position, more HP or items or both, right? So we're really failing the early game plan, because the early game plan is literally just what we said, right? So that's what we want to do and what we want to focus on, the type of lane we're playing, and then the type of advantage we can take. Obviously, there's also stuff like thinking about the cooldown, like this being 11 seconds, or thinking about like these cooldowns, or I don't know, if you're like the other side, then thinking about some other cooldown, whatever. There's stuff like that. Obviously, in between there's mechanics, there's spacing, there's whatever. But this is the basic plan that we want to arrive at, and that's what we want to execute. And I can tell you for sure that even if someone bad mechanically did this plan, they could win this lane really hard. So then let's skip ahead until like the first tower falls, because that's what we really want to see, because that's when we're gonna say that the early game ends. So Draven gets like 3 kills, I guess, and his tower falls. Okay. So does Draven go mid now? Let's see. Right, so he keeps going bot lane. But you see, this is like a small issue because he has 0 impact in bot lane. Like whenever towers fall, even if it's his own tower, like his tower doesn't have that much value anymore because there are no plates. So going mid would just be better, because you want the mid lane to be as strong as possible so these towers don't fall. Because if these towers fall, the map really opens up. So your mid game plan as ADC is, as I've said in many ADC videos, you will try to defend the towers, you will try to take enemy towers. If you end up taking your own tower, like at 10 minutes or pre-10 minutes, then you will go top lane and try to take plates there. If that is not the case, then you will go mid lane, because it's later. And then all you do is you try to push the wave or whatever, if you can, and then you move around the map. Like for example, if you're mid lane right now, you push this out with your support, and you move to like this guy or something. Or you move here, or you move here. You find somewhere to move. But that makes your game have a consistent position where you can make decisions from. And if you have a consistent position that you make decisions from, then you will find which decisions work and which don't. But if you try to balance every variable in the game, then you won't have that. Because if you try to balance like dodging spells and hitting every minion and I don't know, like every single thing that you could possibly do on the map at the same time, then you will end up in positions where you can't make it consistent. It's like different decisions every single time, all the time. So like right now, the game is really unplayable on top side. And we need to somehow use our lead, but we're not using our lead. And then that guy just gets to use it because we need to kill Yi. We need to like collect stuff on Yi and not let him play. And at some point we need to snowball, and then it's gonna come down to like some fights. But since that's not the case, we're kind of failing our mid game plan as well. Let's see what he does now. Comes mid, but now he's probably gonna do the same thing that most people do. Okay, never mind, he didn't do it yet. But okay, so this is good, right? He got rewarded for this. Sure. Coming to his teammates, also pretty good. But then, yeah, we get like caught some places, and then because he was like pushing out bot lane, mid lane ends up falling again. Now the game is unplayable because we're stuck in our base. So since we're stuck in our base, what can we do? Pretty much nothing. But then, okay, now he does it. He starts walking up mid, and he tries to like force contest stuff. But the problem is, if you get, I don't know, like, okay, Gangplank doesn't have ult, but Razor, he's not timing up or whatever. But if you get like Yeet, and this guy comes from one of the sides, like here for example, you will just die. So, a bit disastrous. You can't really do the stuff without towers, and then, yeah, you just can't play, because the towers are gone, right? So this is the mid-game plan, also failed here. And the mid-game plan should be the same in most games, though comps can change it a little bit, but other than that, it's kind of whatever. And then at the end of the game, we don't really have many options now in terms of late game, but the late game plan in general is kind of similar to the mid game plan. But what we would do here is we would still try to push out the lanes, but now we're more adaptable with going like to the sides and going with our teammates. And it depends a bit more on comps, because for example here we have like 2 people that can split push, and we can have 3 people that group or something, you know. It might also be better for all of us to group. Like, we really do need Wukong kind of to deal with Master Yi, and it's just some stuff that changes by comp, so we're not going to go into that very much here. But this should give you a pretty good idea of how you want to approach the pre-game, early to mid-game parts of the game as ADC, and specifically on the example of Draven. Our build, though, is pretty interesting. He did go for the Essence Reaver IE and then Shield Bow, I think. And I mean, the thing with builds is that on ADC you want to be a bit more adaptable than on the last thing that we talked about, which is Evelynn, because you have some more options. Like for example, at some points, Gale Force could be useful, Kraken could be useful, like BT could be useful, like Bruiser items could be useful, this stuff can be useful, I don't know, like Collector or something could be useful, like who knows, right? And if you can find a use for it, it's fine, but don't focus on it too much. Just find like a build or two that you can play, like have something you can play against tanks, have something you can play against range, something you can play against like more fighter type champions, and you should be good enough. Either way, if you enjoyed the video, then like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.